Yo, what up? What up? Tony Dunn, the professor, and this is the C3 Fantasy Football Podcast exclusively for C3 Fantasy Football Challenge ballers. But we're going to be talking fantasy football in general. So if you like fantasy, if you like football, and you like the Panthers, this is probably the fantasy football show for you. I got my boy here, commissioner in the league, Trip Morgan. Trip, what league are you in? What's the name of your league again? I forget.
Mills.
You're in the C3 Mills League, guys. If
C3
this is the
Mills.
first, if you're tuning into the show for the first time, the C3 Fantasy Football Challenge is a 48 football team challenge. It's composed of 4 leagues of 12 teams. So there's 4 divisions, 12 teams in each division. And then we, at the end of the season, we manually seed the top 3 teams for each division and put them in a super bracket. And we have a mega winner. Number 1 prize, $300 and a Vernon Butler jersey this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of chop up the latest fantasy football news and try to keep you in the know as best as we can and generate the conversation. You can hashtag the show, talk with the show, hashtag C3. Make sure you get in those message boards, folks. Trip, football starts tomorrow night in Denver.
Yes, it does.
The Panthers venture to Mile High Stadium, or it's got a name, at Mile High is what it's called, something at Mile High. And the Panthers, so we talked about this a lot last night on the C3 podcast. We're not going to talk about the Panthers from our perspective. Let's look at this a fantasy perspective here. Tell me the key things. I guess for the Panthers, we know this is Cam Newton is a fantasy go. Kelvin Benjamin is a fantasy go. And I would probably say Jonathan Stewart is maybe an RB2 in many leagues, a flex position.
Yeah, I'd definitely say a low RB2. It's gonna be a tough matchup. I think he only got 12 attempts in the Super Bowl and averaged 2 yards an attempt. Obviously, the game was closed the whole game until the fourth quarter. It's kind of hard to say that they couldn't give him the football more. But definitely. I mean, it's hard to sit him as a low running back too.
But here's the thing with Jonathan Stewart that is not necessarily helpful for him fantasy-wise is that if on passing downs, they just tend to like to use other guys a little bit more.
Yeah.
They want to go to Fozzie Whitaker. Or they want to go to Mike Tolbert in that case. And so you're not going to get a lot of catches out of him generally. You know what I mean? He catches the ball. He's not bad at it. It's just not his role. And then it seems like when he gets to the red zone, Jonathan Stewart just is not the first option when we go to the red zone. When you're on the 1 yard line, it just seems like it's pretty much going to be Cam or Tolbert.
Yep.
So is there any, I guess, we're missing one major person, probably the best fantasy player. Yeah, Greg Olsen. Any news on his back?
No, as far as everything I've read since, the 3rd preseason game, he said he could play. Rivera wanted to hold him out, obviously, which is a smart move. He should be full go from everything I've seen and read.
Yeah, I think too. When it comes to Greg Olsen, is that he wasn't on the injury report.
Right.
Okay, so that's gonna be good. And then the Panthers defense. You got to say that the Panthers defense is one of the top options this week, going against a rookie quarterback who really has little experience at any level. And he hasn't even been that good in the preseason or anywhere that's that impressive. He does throw a kind of pretty ball, but it's got to get to the guy.
Yeah, and that's what worries you more. Playing Peyton Manning, he didn't necessarily have the arm to get the ball downfield because Denver's got good receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. If this kid can throw the ball accurately, he'll be able to get the ball downfield with his arm. That's what will scare you more than Peyton Manning. But he's got to do that, and that's where going against our rookie cornerbacks, that's where we got to have a pass rush going. Get to them early, get them rattled. It's hard for most young QBs to battle back out of that.
Yeah, and you got to be wondering right now. I heard Emmanuel Sanders signed his deal today. So he's happy. He's frequently unhappy. Is he a better option on that team than Demaryius Thomas this year?
You know, a lot of people could probably argue that Demaryius has just got that extra size, but Emmanuel Sanders, man, he can light you up deep. He was, Thomas had an off year considering what he was supposed to have last season. He battled drops.
He had like the most drops in the league or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, he still hauled in 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns. Sanders had.
Imagine if he would have caught the ball.
Exactly. I mean, and now he's got a quarterback that's, going to be able to get him the ball better. And they had Osweiler in there for a couple games back and forth, but you can't expect him to have that big of a down year again. But the argument can be made for Sanders. I think he's definitely an underrated wide receiver in fantasy terms for sure.
All right, I know that C.J. Anderson had a down. He has not had that great of a time since Gary Kubiak got there.
Very inconsistent.
I feel like he's a good back too. I just feel like they didn't like him that much last year. I felt like they didn't really give him an opportunity. They would give him one play. Everybody knew they were running the ball, and he didn't do anything, and then they would give up on him. They did drop Hillman this year. This week, is C.J. Anderson a good play? I don't think so.
Against the Panthers front seven, you'd have to say no. But I'll say this, saying that for people who own him, I'm not a fan of C.J. Anderson. For as early as he goes, he's been going in drafts.
He killed me
ADP.
last year.
Really? Yeah. That didn't surprise me. But I think this year with a young QB, Kubiak's probably going to try to get that run game established to help. That's what every head coach wants to do, to try to help a young quarterback. And I think that would be key. Not saying, he's going to do great, but he should have his opportunities, especially with Hillman gone. They're pretty much handing the reins to Anderson and saying, look, you're the guy. Prove it.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next game. We're going to try to bust through all the games if we can. Bucks at Falcons. You got to think that where are you going on this game? Where do you see? I mean, I think that the fantasy money lies on Tampa in this game.
As far as
I feel like they have the ability to probably get guys that are going to put up more significant points. I guess Julio.
Yeah.
You always have Julio.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of Julio, we don't really know much about their team. We haven't seen Sanu. We saw Freeman. He dropped off. He ran out of gas last year.
Well, he got injured too, though. But I mean, Freeman's still a toss-up, right? Because you want to see him do it more than 1 year. But I mean, when he was in, he was huge. And of course, Julio is going to Julio. But yeah, Mike Evans and Doug Martin are pretty known commodities. And right now, Jameis Winston's a better quarterback than Matt Ryan.
I'm gonna pull up to see what's your kind of thoughts on the Bucs side. Let me see. All right. So let's hear. I think this is here. I just want to go over the injury report for the Falcons. Nobody on the offensive side of the ball is listed on the injury report, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let me see if I can drop down to them. Lewis Murphy, J.R. Sweezy, George. So all their big guys are going in there. Do you like anybody? For me, Vincent Jackson's an interesting play against that defense and corners who appeared to struggle in the preseason.
Yeah, Trufant didn't have a very good preseason. He's normally a pretty stable cornerback for Atlanta. Mike Evans is their guy. He's Winston's guy, no doubt, all day. And then, Doug Martin could be in for a big game. Atlanta's defense is still rebuilding a lot. So that, neither one of these teams' defenses are really great. Tampa's is good on paper, and they haven't been bad, but they have not lived up to what everybody thought. Quan Alexander's an excellent second year.
Thought. Quan
Alexander's coming in a second
year. The bandwagon got too big with Lovey and Jameis Winston last year.
Yeah.
So, and then it just was terrible, and it was like that the year before too. I think they have a backup running back who is pretty darn good too, outside of
Doug.
What's his name? Doug Martin. I like but I like Vincent Jackson, and of course I'm going to talk up the guys that I drafted. I drafted him in my fantasy football league as a guy that's a big. I go after guys that catch touchdowns, and maybe that's a bad strategy in a PPR league. As the decider, but it really feels like to me is touchdowns make the difference. Yeah, and Jackson he can score touchdowns.
Oh yeah, Mike Evans is probably going to draw a lot of help in secondary to cover him.
Trufant at least
in the red zone. I think also Safarian-Jenkins could be a sneaky guy some weeks in the red zone.
Has he won the starting job back? He lost it.
Yeah, he got it. He got it back. And they actually, from reading the beat writers, he's definitely secured it. That's who they want to roll with, and he has the talent. Because he's obviously got the size too, so he could be a sneaky play. I wouldn't start him over your main tight ends in fantasy, but if you're doing a little DraftKings and FanDuel,
especially if you don't got a guy, maybe that's a guy you stash and see what happens with him. Sorry,
he's definitely worth a late tight end flyer in the draft.
Excuse me, I am sick right now, and of course, right at the season opener, I'm going to feel like crap. But all right, next, Vikings Titans. Man, it's got to be tough for the Vikings. There's not much stock. I mean, you can't be excited outside of AP, given the fact that they lost Teddy Bridgewater.
No, they got Laquan Treadwell. First round, but I think right now he's third on the depth chart, so he's probably not.
They got Diggs, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs. But, you got Sam Bradford over there slinging the ball now. He just hasn't progressed in a whole lot. I mean, he can get the ball to him, but we've seen his story in his career. Obviously, the only person on the Vikings that's really worth RB1 or wide receiver one is Adrian Peterson. He's going to get his carries, especially now.
Melissa on YouTube thinks that ASJ, which is the Rasta man in Tampa, will be a beast her husband thinks that he's going to be good this year. We're waiting. I feel like this is anytime I listen to fantasy football podcasts with real experts, I feel like they're ahead too early. And that is they actually give good advice if you just wait 2 years. So they'll be like, you really need to watch this guy. He could be this or that. And then you'll be like Bishop Sankey. The other guy that is in Minnesota who always drives us crazy, they thought was going to be the next who's the guy that got traded everywhere and nobody likes, and he always has headaches. It was in Buffalo. He went from Minnesota to Seattle to Buffalo. Wide receiver. Seattle traded for him real
Percy Harvin.
Yeah. So they thought, who is that guy that they all think is going to be the next Percy Harvin? And he's been a bust. And I feel like the fantasy guys, I was listening to them, and ASJ was going to be the guy like 2 years ago. So, you know what? Given that recipe,
he's due.
He is going to blow up this year. All right, let's push on down. Browns at Eagles. I got Gary Barnidge here, man. And the former Panther is just a touchdown machine.
Oh, yeah, he definitely was last year. He does have some other competition in, receiving the ball this year, but red zone, he should definitely get some, red zone looks to take some heat off and be a safety blanket for RG3. It'll be interesting to see that actually this year. You said they were playing the Eagles. I like Ryan Matthews this year if he can stay healthy. His upside and talent is so good.
The problem. He never can stay. Because Sproles, I feel like they don't use Sproles enough. Sproles, I think, would just be better off in New Orleans still. Yeah. I think here is what my take on this matchup fantasy wise is I think the Browns are going to be Browns players will be good plays early in the season. And I just feel like this is like right now, RG3, they had a good preseason. They feel good. they're optimistic. I think by like week 7, the season in reality will set in. Right. And you'll see people's fantasy numbers, particularly RG3, start to decline at that point. But I think early in the season, there's a real opportunity that they kind of put up some offensive numbers. And then you get in week 4, Josh Gordon comes to the mix.
Yes, that is my man. I got him on my bench right now. Another play in that Eagles matchup. Jordan Matthews could be a stout, end up being a really good wide receiver this year in fantasy. He's going to
feel like everybody's forgotten about him. Every single person has forgotten about him.
He's going to gobble up targets. I was a big fan of him coming out of the draft. The Panthers picked him up in the 2nd, 3rd round, but didn't happen.
Yep. I'm with you on that. That's exactly where I was at. Ken, you can always join the show. It's open and available. I'll send you another link. He's watching on YouTube right now. I sent you a link in your email, too, if you don't get this invite. All right, let's move on to what's next. Bengals at Jets. Tough.
Eric Decker's a touchdown machine.
Really?
Yeah. He scored 10 touchdowns every year of his career.
Brandon Marshall, how is he?
Brandon Marshall's great, too. Now, I love
Brandon Marshall. How has he done so well with the Jets?
He's one of those guys though too that if you get it in his vicinity, he can do contested catches and make the play. Fitzpatrick is one of those quarterbacks. I don't think he's going to get you to the Super Bowl, but he's one of those that can get the ball to the receiver where it needs to be when it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. What's up, Ken?
What's up?
So we're talking right now, Kim. We're talking Bengals at Jets and what fantasy options. Let me see if I'll check. What are your thoughts on a fantasy outlook for? We'll start with the Jets. We just highlighted that the receivers seem to put up real numbers there. I've got Matt Forte, who I think could be a great fit in New York. They got a good defense, which seems to put a lot of pressure on the Bengals in the first week.
Yeah, in fact, I got Matt Forte in the 3rd round. The last pick in the 3rd round on my draft. Same reason. PPR, he's durable. In the passing game, out of the backfield. Makes Cincinnati. Bobbing their head on that playoff ceiling too much. Either they're going to crash through and get to the championship game or the Super Bowl. I'm not sure which one it's going to be.
All right. Tripp, how do you feel about the guy that I like on it is on the Bengals, Giovanni Bernard.
Oh, in a PPR league, he's huge.
Yeah.
I think he's actually projected in PPR leagues 9-10 points a game coming off the bench as a second running back to Jeremy Hill, which is big. I mean, PPR leagues, he's going to be great. And then you got, of course, AJ Green, who you would assume is going to get a bunch of looks this year. He's Andy Dalton's guy, and I know a lot of people are high on him. So, I mean, he's going to get his chances.
I think the whole Tyler Eifert thing just kind of throws a question mark over everything going on there.
Yep. Tyler Eifert coming back, that'll be a big plus for them. I'm a big fan of him. Had him last year and was high on him last year and got him. And I got him real late last year. And when he went off.
Yeah, it's always good to get a value. It takes off.
But he had a really ugly injury in the Pro Bowl. And
that's why you hate the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and I mean, he's spoken out about it. It seems like that's going to be a quick turnaround recovery time for him. I think that for me, I think the guy that leapfrogged him as a tight end this year is Travis Kelce from Kansas City. I like him a lot. I like Giovanni. I think AJ Green. You're right now. I think what you're looking for with the Bengals is there a second receiver option that starts to open up that maybe you could poach on the waiver wire?
Well, you know who they got as a wide receiver too, don't you?
Oh, they got
Brandon LaFell.
Brandon LaFell. Oh my gosh, good.
So yeah, he's injured right now, but I mean, when he does come back, he's going to have one or two good games, and he's going to drop a bunch of passes. Same thing he did in New England.
He is not on the injury report.
Oh, really?
So right now, Tyler Eifert is out. I said Tyler Eifert is because it's his name. He is out because of an ankle, it says, or he's listed. Running back Cedric Pierman, Marcus Hardison, Brandon Thomas, and Andrew Billings are the only people, and that was updated on the 5th. So 2 days ago.
Interesting.
Okay, so then they're playing who again? Did I say they were playing the Jets?
Yeah.
Let me see if any notable injuries on the Jets. Still Devin Smith on the PUP list. Why can't that? I thought that guy was going to be the man out of OSU. Elijah Mott was clipped. Okay, moving on because we need to power through. Raiders at Saints. You got to think the Raiders offense is a great play.
Yes.
Fantasy. The Saints defense, we haven't seen it ever be good.
Oh boy, they're gonna get lit up. And the best thing about this matchup is it could be a shootout. I mean, this could be one of those games where it goes.
It's in New Orleans, 48, so it's on the track.
Yep, it could go 48-48 into the fourth quarter or something crazy. Especially with those quarterbacks and offenses.
So Martavius Bryant? No, not Martavius Bryant. That's the receiver. Latavius Murray is outside of Latavius Murray and what's his name? The wide receiver.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Amari Cooper. Who and Derek Carr or David, whichever Carr it is that what are there any other options offensively?
Yeah, I'll take that one because I've got him. I took Latavius Murray also in the draft, and I took Michael Crabtree. In fact, Crabtree had more targeted in the red zone. Last year than Cooper.
Michael Crabtree in PPR leagues. Yeah, in PPR leagues last year, with Amari battling that foot injury, Crabtree was averaging like 10, 12, 15 points a game in fantasy, gobbling up those targets opposite Cooper. So, I mean, he could be a sneaky play and like a flex option deep in the draft for sure.
Yeah, he seemed to kind of have a resurgence in Oakland. I felt like everybody had just gave up on him. And, I think they were concerned about his foot issues, and it turns out the other guy has the issue.
Oakland's not a team to sleep on this year.
Well, I wonder. I hope the hype isn't too much. Their defense, I feel like they're the team that everybody wants to get behind, but they have a real opportunity. I think that's why people are excited about them, because the Chargers seem like a limited threat. Denver seems to be obviously not the same team, and Kansas City is the team that so they could they have a shot this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, New Orleans Saints. Boy, is their injury report long. But outside of Sheldon Rankins, Halololi Kikaha is an outside linebacker they drafted last year. He's on the physically underperformed list. I think they signed Jari, what's his name? Evans,
Jari Evans.
Yeah, from Seattle today.
Yep.
So to me, I think Drew Brees is a great fantasy play this year.
Well, I mean, he's always a great fantasy play. But yes, he's in as long as him and Sean Payton are at the helm, and he's not, too frail. He's going to be a pass-heavy offense and quarterback.
Don't you think he's going to be better than where he was probably drafted?
Yeah,
I feel like he probably fell on the draft boards.
Yeah, and I think a lot of quarterbacks I always wait late to draft a quarterback because I think there's too much value put into them. If you're grabbing, I just don't see a lot of quarterbacks that are worth the top 3 picks. And in the PPR leagues, I definitely don't like drafting a quarterback early.
Well, see, the only reason I picked up Breeze at the end of the 5th round, which he's probably a little bit of value there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good value.
I was eyeing Dante Moncrief as my wide receiver too. He got snatched up right before I picked, so I said, for Breeze, take him.
Yeah. 5th round's not bad.
Yeah. Took him and then took him right after.
And then Brandon Cooks is there, and Brandon Cooks is explosive. He's electric, and he's really, in my eyes, kind of under the radar talent because
I got him.
You think a lot of catches. They want to get him. Sean Payton is pretty good at creatively getting his playmakers the ball.
Yep.
And so if you got Jimmy Graham, you're going to make sure that you use Jimmy Graham the way Jimmy Graham should be used. You're going to use Darren Sproles. You're going to use – so he's good at adjusting that offense except for running backs. He still can't do that. Is that even though 1 year they went 2 years ago, Mark Ingram, they really seem to commit to him. I haven't seen it since, and I just can't buy that he's going to change his philosophy. All right, next on the board, Chargers at Chiefs. Everything I'm reading is saying Melvin Gordon is the guy to watch. Let down in his rookie year, struggled in pass protection, just really looked undersized at times. What do you buy into it, Tripp, that Melvin Gordon could be a mega play this year?
No, not a mega play. I'm not a fan of him. He didn't show a whole lot last year, and last year I was actually, thought he might be worth where he was going. He came out of Stanford with one of the best offensive lines in the nation, which really helped his run game. And now he's got in the NFL, and he seems to be struggling adjusting. I'm not big on him this year, and especially for like a big player to be one of the top running backs. And that he won't be getting a lot of PPR, looks. That's Danny Woodhead. He's going to eat up all those pass catching downs.
This is the CBS injury report. Oh, you know what? Let me see if this changes. That says PUP or IR. Here we go. Now I got a better. Oh, I've been looking at the wrong injury report list. That was just PUP and IR. All right, so Kansas City, I think, though, running back Jamal Charles, who I picked up in the 2nd round, questionable. They've said that they're going to ease him in, and there is another guy that they drafted this year, or that's pretty good, that they like a lot. Will Jamal Charles? I don't think he's a play this week. I think he's a sit this week.
Oh yeah.
Spencer Ware.
Yep, Spencer Ware is definitely the guy to go to. Like you said, they haven't given Charles the number 1 spot back. They're not. They
will though. They will.
Yeah, he'll get his opportunity, but Spencer Ware is going to get his to prove up. Jamal Charles, he's torn both ACLs, and I'm not a guy to knock anybody with ACLs because we have Thomas Davis on our team, obviously. Anything can happen. You saw what Adrian Peterson did when he came back this day and age. But, Jamal Charles is still relatively fresh off of that ACL tear because it was late in the season. But, yeah, when he comes back and he gets the start nod, he's been a fantasy machine, so you'll have to give him that opportunity.
Yeah, he's never not produced. Ken, what do you think about Jeremy Maclin in this game?
Depends on what Alex Smith thinks of the wide receiver position. He's kind of been off and on, hot and cold about throwing to his receivers for touchdowns. So,
he went a whole
Maclin, he's
out throwing one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But nowhere to go but up from there, and he has. But like you said, he's got Travis Kelce. Boy, he's a legitimate threat right there. A seam buster in the middle, and so he's got a lot of options.
They drafted another wide receiver last year, who I forget his name, but he was looking pretty good throughout the season. Chargers, I gotta wonder if Phillip Rivers is going to make any noise this year. I'm not a Phillip Rivers fan. I know that he put up a lot of points a couple of years ago. Everybody's back on the bandwagon, but he was really not good last year. I mean, the whole team was terrible. Bills at Ravens. I think here for me is ultimately the standout question is why the heck did I have to have a draft and then 2 days later Justin Forsett get cut and then re-signed? I thought I was going to pick him like in the 5th round and make some noise and find a great flex play. The veteran guy who's going to get a lot of touches, who was healed up. You got to be a little cautious in putting I'm not going to be starting him this week until I see how they look and what their kind of philosophy with their running backs is going to be.
Yeah, I think
Baltimore.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in a lot of passing downs late in games and stuff, trying to fight back. As it would appear right now, I think a sneaky play for a big value for wide receiver right now in Baltimore is Mike Wallace. He's, from all reports, he's pretty much taken the #1 job, and he's got a good chemistry with Joe Flacco. You know how Joe Flacco likes to throw the deep ball, and he can throw a pretty one when he's throwing it. But that could be a big play because he might get a lot of targets with trying to make a comeback win late in games or whatnot. So, yeah, running back position there is just all screwed up.
Let's see. I'm looking at their injury report, and I don't see Steve Smith on it.
No, he came back in the preseason.
Wow. And the other one is surprisingly who was not on the injury report is Brashard Perryman, who I also drafted late this year because I thought, what the hell, maybe he'll be the guy.
It's just, I don't know who's it. The wide receiver. It could be Kamara, for all we know.
Yeah, exactly. Buffalo, I guess, usual suspects right now. It seems LaShawn McCoy has a leg up since the Carlos Rogers guy turned out to be fat. And also, it seems like a lot of people are excited about Sammy Watkins this year.
Yep, I just don't like him in that offense.
I just feel like, gosh, he's just wasting away there.
I know.
I just wish but he has been hurt, so part of it's been his fault.
Yeah.
I just don't trust the Buddy Ryan offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a wide receiver.
Why should you?
Yeah.
All right, next on the list, Bears at Texans. Where's the fantasy value in this game?
We got Alshon Jeffrey, and then Kevin White's making his first appearance in the NFL this season.
With Cutler. And Cutler, man, he could always throw like 38 touchdowns.
Yeah, Cutler's just so inconsistent. He can have those great games where he throws for, a 5-touchdown game. Then he can come out next week and throw 5 interceptions. But, yeah, with those big targets, I mean, anything can happen. And who's their running back now? Oh, Jeremy Langford. He's not a bad
that's right. Yeah, man, I forgot about him. And then on the other side of the ball, you got Lamar Miller, and we'll be interested to see how Brock Osweiler looks. How about this? I didn't realize this, but Houston drafted Will Fuller.
Yep,
or at least they have a Will Fuller. I thought that he played. Oh, so he's the Notre Dame guy.
Yeah,
I was thinking. Okay. I was thinking of Kendall Fuller's brother.
No.
Who's on the Bears? Isn't it Kendall, or which one is on the Bears? The cornerback. One of the Fullers from Virginia Tech. All right, moving on. We got to crush through these in the next 5 minutes. Packers at Jaguars. Jaguars.
Jaguars.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, are you guys concerned about Eddie Lacy? I mean, like, is he – I felt like he was going pretty high again this year.
It's just because he's had such an inconsistent career. But, he's slimmed down. He's not overweight like he was last year. He's a lot more in shape, well-conditioned. They got Jordy Nelson back, so they got a lot of firepower back. So it looks good.
How about this? Is Justin Blackman is still listed on the Jaguars roster?
Why?
It just says suspended indefinitely. It's probably on his rookie contract because it's a 5-year contract, I bet.
Yeah.
I think he was the same year. Luke, this might be finally the year they get away from it. Chris Ivory is listed as questionable. You might want to keep an eye on that because that might help out.
TJ,
who's that other? Yeah. So that'll be interesting. And then on Green Bay, let me see if I can dig up anything.
Don't forget Allen Robinson on Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean he's beast. But look, no significant players on the Packers injured, and you got to wonder: is Jordy Nelson are they going to limit him? It's going to be hard to sit Jordy Nelson when he's not on the injury report.
Yeah, him and Rodgers have that connection.
Yeah. All right. Next,
I'm feeling they're probably going to get ahead a little bit, and then when they get ahead in the second half, they'll sit.
Yeah, I agree. Which might mean Randall Cobb time early in the season. Dolphins at Seahawks. Man.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's ugly. I don't pick anybody on the Dolphins anymore.
No. Well, Jarvis Landry might be worth.
Yeah.
He's a good wide receiver late, but
that's true.
Outside of that,
he's great.
Nice sleeper.
Yeah, you're right. For the first 4 weeks, Arian Foster will score like 25 touchdowns,
and then the last 4,
and then that's it. Is that he'll be done there? Let me see Miami injury report.
String.
Devontae Parker hamstring questionable. That's it, and they're playing Seattle. Seattle.
Thomas Rawls.
Nobody of. Yeah, is that he's the guy, right? And then it's Christine Michael as a backup.
Kristen Michael, yep, the pump up every year for every team he plays on.
That never does anything.
Yeah, well, he's never been given a legit opportunity anywhere either. I mean, he just flashes potential.
All right, last 3 games. There's 5 more games to go. I don't know how we're going to do this. Giants at Cowboys. The Cowboys, you got to think Ezekiel Elliott is going to get a lot of work now that Dak Prescott's going to be playing. Is Dak Prescott a guy that you may want to stash on your bench?
I picked him up late, and I've stashed him.
Okay. Giants, everybody always loves their running backs, whoever they are. And I don't know who they are every year.
Rashad Jennings, and I don't know why anybody would love them.
You know who likes him a lot? Clip.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good play on the other side.
And now I will say this: Jennings might be a good value pick in a draft because he does go late, and he's a starter. He's going to get touches.
Right.
And if they're pass happy offense, they might have some running lanes open. So it's not a bad value pick. He's just not one of the top guys I would look for.
All right, Lions at Colts.
Volume guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. As Lions at Colts, any thoughts there?
Golden Tate.
Don't pick the Colts running backs.
Yeah. Don't ever draft a Colts running back. Exactly. I'll be interested to see if Andrew Luck can bounce back, because here's the thing: is that he not only has he been hurt, but he's not been very good.
And apparently he's injured again.
Oh, is he?
That's what I heard.
They got him.
I was listening to Adam and Joe.
Yeah, shoulder questionable.
Yep.
Gosh, their injury list is long, but outside of him, I don't know anybody on that list. All right, next up, Pats at Cardinals. All the fantasy value has to be on the Cardinals, but LeGarrette Blount might get a lot of touches in this game.
Yeah, it could be him and James White. Of course, you said Patriots, Cardinals.
Yeah.
And then you got of course, Gronkowski's going to get his looks. Larry Fitz is always, he's just a consistent receiver, season in, season out.
It'd be interesting to see how David Johnson performs. Fantasy-wise against quality defense like the Patriots.
He's been a very high draft pick. I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah, very, very high. Maybe a little too high. Steelers at Redskins. We'll be anxious to see Antonio Brown just go crazy on everybody.
God, I love that guy.
Yeah, D'Angelo Williams will be playing a running back. And last game, I guess here we'll ask this is because I think Todd Gurley's the play this week against the San Francisco 49ers. I know he's the play every week, but the San Francisco 49ers with Chip Kelly as their coach, I got to feel that the Rams are going to be in a better place this week. But last point is this. Matt Jones for the Redskins, he is listed as questionable, I believe. And he has fumbling problems as well.
Yes, definitely does.
So it's going to be what I would do. Another guy who's on the list who's kind of we need to see what he's going to be doing since he's on the injury list, and that may make them a little bit more concerned or cautious how to use him. All right, we got to get out of here because Joey and them are starting Southbound and Down at 10 o'clock. Guys, it's the C3 Fantasy Football Podcast. Trip Morgan. Tell them how they can find you on Twitter.
You can find me at TripMorgan6, TRIPPMORGAN, the number 6 on Twitter.
All right, Ken, thanks for joining us. Tell us how they can find you on Twitter.
Just look the commish. I'm at Ken_die, DYE.
That's Ken_die, DYE. And this is Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. And you can find me at cat_chronicles. Make sure you check out Carolina Cat Chronicles for your latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Peace out, guys.